بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. I am very happy and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have tawfiq to start our second series on Islamic mysticism. As you remember, we started with an introduction to Islamic mysticism based on Ayatollah Mutahhari's book, Rahmatullah alayh. And in 14 sessions, we studied that. And we said right at the beginning that our second stage would be studying Maqamat al the 9th section of Al-Isharat al-Tanbihat by Ibn Sina, with the commentary by Khwajah Nasir al-Tusi rahmatullah alayh. You remember that sessions 9, 10 and 11 of Introduction to Islamic Mysticism was based on this section of Al-Isharat wa al-Tanbihat, and Ayatollah Mutahhari chose this book as the basis for his discussion about Maqamat al Arifin, stations of the mystics, and he very much praised this text and said this has been one of the best pieces on Irfan, although normally Ibn Sina is not classified as an Arif, but the way he described this topic, which relates to al-Irfan al-Amali, to practical mysticism, is excellent. So he chose it and he briefly mentioned this, and we had it in session 19, session 10 and session 11. If you need, please go and listen to those because it would help a lot. So in order to help you have better idea of this text, you should know that Ibn Sina has many books. He was a great thinker but also a great writer, because sometimes thinkers have difficulty in writing down, but he was also a great writer. Most of his writings are in Arabic, but he has also some in Farsi. His famous book on philosophy, on mathematics, on physics is Al-Shifa, which is very huge, encyclopedia, but not just encyclopedia, very deep. He has Najat, which is also very well known because it is on medicine and has been used in European universities, European seminaries for centuries on medicine. He has Danishname Alai on logic. He has many books. One of his famous books, which has been used in the Hawzas as a textbook for advanced study of philosophy and logic, is Al-Isharat wa al-Tanbihat. Isharat means hints. Tanbihat means like notice, warnings, notifications. So this is the title of this book. The recent edition, which is published with the commentary by Khwajah Nasir Tusi, is 3 volumes, and the first volume is on logic, and then on tabi'iyat, and then ilahiyat. Nowadays they don't study that much tabi'iyat, because many of the things that philosophers used to discuss in tabi'iyat have changed based on the change in our scientific understanding of the world, and that was not actually part of philosophy as such. But still they have very important discussions there. But the section on logic is still used, but the section on philosophy and irfan is very much used. In Iran also, in the universities, in departments of philosophy, especially those who specialize in Islamic philosophy, also read this book and study this book. So the part about ilahiyat, which is like theology, is very important and gives you a typical understanding of theological issues from philosophical perspective based on Mashai approach, peripatetic philosophy, which is very much known in the Muslim world by people like Ibn Sina. They follow the same tradition of Aristotle, but they have lots of new ideas and lots of deeper arguments. In this third volume, which is about al-ilahiyat bil-ma'na al-akhas, about theology, he talks about different types of pleasure. After talking about human soul and different types of pleasure, and then in order to complete that discussion about pleasure, and that the greatest experience of pleasure is first by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah is ashaddu ibtihajan bizatihi, because he has the greatest understanding of the greatest thing. When you have the greatest understanding of the most pleasant thing, then you will have the greatest pleasure. Who is the best? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who has the greatest understanding? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Allah thinks of himself and the perfection that he has, philosophers call this bahja. This is not emotional happiness, this is intellectual happiness. But then also we have human beings who have great pleasure, deep sense of pleasure. Not pleasure that comes by eating, delicious food, or, having a nice, rest, or some, physical comfort and pleasure. No. There are human beings who have very deep sense of pleasure. And that is because of their nafs, their soul, being detached from dunya and being attached to the spiritual world and enjoying the perfection that human nafs can achieve when they look at themselves and see what is there in this great world inside us, what Allah has put inside us, and what they see in Allah himself. It gives them great sense of pleasure. So for making this discussion complete, he has decided to talk about Maqamat al Arifin. So this is the whole story why in this philosophical book he has this discussion about irfan. So النمط التاسع في مقامات العارفين. The ninth section, he calls sections of the book namat. The ninth section is about maqamat, stations of arifin, mystics. What we are going to do is we are going to study, inshallah, the text by Ibn Sina and the commentary by Khwajah Nasir Tusi, who is a great scholar, who, as you remember, we said he was the one who managed to bring kalam and philosophy very much close to each other. Those who have studied introduction to kalam that we had, or in some other classes on kalam, we explained this, that how much this man was knowledgeable in many different fields, even astronomy, mathematics, many things, but also in theology, in philosophy, and managed to fill the gap between kalam and philosophy. Tajreed al-i'tiqad, which is considered to be the most important text on kalam, is by this man, Khwajah Nasir Tusi. And Allama Halli in Kashf al-Murad is actually commenting on Tajreed al-i'tiqad by Khwajah Nasir Tusi. Now Khwajah is himself sharih for Ibn Sina here, and he has many books, mashallah. May Allah inshallah bless their souls. They had very blessed lives. Not only they trained many people, but they took the borders of knowledge very much further, and also they left great works for us. So we are going inshallah to study both Al-Isharat wa al-Tanbihat by Ibn Sina and the commentary by Khwajah Nasir Tusi. Those who have good grasp of Arabic will enjoy inshallah the text, and we are going inshallah to explain. We are going to explain line by line. Those who don't know Arabic, this is a chance for them to improve their Arabic. But the main focus should be to understand the ideas. So if you have difficulty with Arabic, please be patient, follow the ideas. I also sent you before English translation of this namat. I will send you a reminder in case someone has missed that link. So you have the English translation, but I am going to explain in English everything inshallah, so you don't miss the idea. But it would be very good if you can also understand it in Arabic. For our Khwajah students, this would be inshallah a great practice of analyzing technical Arabic texts in the field of philosophy and Arifan, inshallah. So now let us see what we have today. Before I start, I should say that we have few introductory lines by Ibn Sina where he refers to a story of Salaman and Absal. Salaman and Absal. And then he says Salaman stands for yourself, and Absal stands for your ranks, for your degrees, for your darajat. And he says, think about this story and try to solve this as a quiz for yourself. What does this story of Salaman and Absal refer to, and what lessons we can get from it, is the issue that Khwajah Nasir Tusi expands on it and tries to explain, because there is no clear understanding of what Ibn Sina was referring to. And Khwajah says that actually after he wrote this commentary, after some years, he came across two stories about Salaman and Absal, and he mentions them, and then he added to his commentary later. So we will talk about it inshallah. So please bear with me if this session and maybe part of next session would be about the story of Salaman and Absal, because this is something that was very important for Ibn Sina. He didn't expand on it. We try to understand. But in all these lessons, in all these stories that we mentioned, there are some lessons for us. So it's very important to try to reflect on them. I hope, inshallah, you would have also some people with whom you can study together and do mubahasa, because this is a serious thing. And inshallah, if you understand it well, then you can also better better apply and implement it, inshallah, in your personal reflections and personal, inshallah, spirituality.
بحمدك يا إلهي بدأت قولي وجئتك خاضعا.
So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. النمط التاسع في مقامات العارفين. I am also, inshallah, going to send you the text in Arabic so that you would have the same text that I have. This edition that we are using is page 47 of this volume. Al-Fasl al-Awwal, the first chapter of this section, section 9, chapter 1. Tanbihun. Because Ibn Sina has this title of Ishara and Tanbih many times in this book for, smaller parts that he mentions. Sometimes he says Isharatun, sometimes he says Tanbihun. Here you have your like Tanbih. And this is why the book is called Al-Isharat wa al-Tanbihat. The first Tanbih is this. إن للعارفين مقامات ودرجات. For the mystics, there are stations and degrees or ranks. Those who know Ilm-Nahr, they know that maqamat is mansub. And when we have Jam'a Mu'annath Salim with alif and ta, then whether it is majrur or mansub, we should bring kasra. In the Alfiyya by Ibn Malik, he says, وَمَا بِتَا وَأَلِفٍ قَدْ جُمِعَا يُكْسَرُ فِي الْجَرِّ وَالنَّصْبِ مَعَا. Means whatever is made plural by adding alif and ta, whether it is majrur or mansub, we should make it maksur. This is why I said maqamatin, because this maqamat is S for inna. I don't want to go into Arabic that much, but I wanted you to understand, because this is important to read it properly. Inna lil arifina maqamatin wa darajatin. Truly, for the mystics, there are maqamat, plural for maqam, stations, wa darajat, plural for daraja, degrees, ranks. يخصون بها وهم في حياتهم الدنيا دون غيرهم. These stations and degrees are things that Urafa exclusively have. This is their khususiyya. This is something khas بهم, means they have it for themselves and not others. So these are maqamat and darajat for arifin, not for non-arif, non-mystics. And these are things that they have it right now. We are not talking about akhirah. We are not talking about degrees in heaven. وَهُمْ فِي حَيَاتِهِمُ الدُّنْيَا. In this worldly life, they have these maqamat and degrees. Okay? فَكَأَنَّهُمْ وهم في جلابيب من أبدانهم قد نضوها وتجردوا عنها إلى عالم القدس. If you remember when we were talking about the way Islamic scriptures have inspired Muslim mystics, we referred, for example, to hadith from Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, صاحب الدنيا بأبدان أرواحها معلقة بالمحل الأعلى. The pious people, they live in dunya among other people, but their souls don't belong to this world. Their souls are attached to the high realm. So he says, Urafa, very similar idea. هم في جلابيب من أبدانهم. Jalabib is plural for jilbab. Jilbab is something that you put you as your, outfit or as the cover on top of everything. Maybe, I don't know, piece of clothes, a kind of, Khwajah says malhafa, something that you put on yourself when you want to sleep, for example. Anyway, it's like an outfit, like a abaya, for example, or something similar. So this body is covering them. They are not body. By the way, we are not body. We have body, but we are spirits. Our reality is spirit. Spirit is using body, but we are not body. The maximum you can say about body is to say body is part of our reality, but indeed, our reality is not made by our body. You can lose part of your body, but your reality is not changing. In any case, this body is like jilbab. Quran also we have, yudnina alayhinna min jalabibihinna. This is used for ladies' hijab. So they are in their body, means surrounded with their body like a cover, but قد نضوها وتجردوا. نضوها means خلعوها, means but they have taken off, they have removed this jilbab, this cover, this body. وتجردوا عنها means they have come out of this. Where are they connected? إلى عالم القدس. We said, also in the previous course that in Misbah al-Sharia it says Arif is the one that his body is with people, but his soul is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are living among people, you walk on the street, you eat, you drink, but this is not the reality of you. Reality of you is somewhere else. Most of people, unfortunately, although they have the potential, but they keep their soul busy with this dunya. They, imprison their soul. But these people have freed their soul. The soul is mujarrad, means is separated from body and physical world, and is attached to alam al-Quds, to the universe of sacredness, of the holy world of holiness. وَلَهُمْ أُمُورٌ خَفِيَّةٌ فِيهِمْ. Mystics have things which are hidden in them. Other people don't realize. Many mystics, if you look at them, you don't realize they are mystics. Either you think they are ordinary people, or maybe you think they are less than ordinary. Many times people have difficulty in understanding mystics. Amir al-Mu'minin says in Khutbah Muttaqin, when people look at them, they say khulatu. They say these people have mixed up, means they're confused. And Amir al-Mu'minin says, yes, khalatahum amrun azim. Yes, they are mixed up, but not in the way you think. Something great has completely been mixed with them, combined with them. Anyway, the real mystics don't carry a label here that I am a mystic, and don't say I am a mystic. Even maybe they themselves don't know that they are mystics. But the reality is there. But there are also some mystics that we know because of our familiarity with them, because of seeing their impact on others, or especially if they are knowledgeable, because of their knowledge. We see that they have knowledge, but also their knowledge is different from other scholars. So there are ways that sometimes we, especially people who are in the field or people who are familiar, they may realize. But there are also mystics that no one can realize. In any case, there are things in them which are khafiyya, means hidden. لهم أمور خفية فيهم وأمور ظاهرة عنهم. And there are things which are clear and they manifest from them. So it's like an iceberg. Something visible, something not visible. يستنكرها من ينكرها. Those who don't know such things, they would find it not acceptable with respect to those things that are manifest. Yastankir means they condemn, they don't appreciate. وَيَسْتَكْبِرُهَا مَنْ يَعْرِفُهَا. يَسْتَكْبِرُهَا means يَسْتَعْظِمُهَا. Those who know them, know such things, they say these are great. So you find people have very, diverse and very much, conflicting views about them. Some people say these are great people. Some people say these people, na'uzu billah, are, I don't want to use the word, like something like ignorant, for example, or confused, depending on whether they are familiar and they appreciate such things or not. يستنكرها من ينكرها means من ينكر هذه الأمور. Those people who don't appreciate these things, they say these things are bad. But ويستكبرها من يعرفها. Those who know such things, they say these are great. These are kabir means great. يستعظمها. وَنَحْنُ نَقُصُّهَا عَلَيْكَ. And inshallah we are going to relay these things to you. Okay, this was the first tanbih of Ibn Sina. Now, before we go to the next tanbih, let us see what Khwajah Nasir Tusi has for us. He says, لما أشار في النمط المتقدم إلى ابتهاج الموجودات بكمالاتها المختصة بها على مراتبها، أراد أن يشير في هذا النمط إلى أحوال أهل الكمال من النوع الإنساني ويبين كيفية ترقيهم في مدارج سعاداتهم. When he referred in the previous section, 8th section, to what? ابتهاج الموجودات, that beings are happy with perfections that they have. Every being is happy with the perfections that are exclusive to them, depending on how much they understand. According to Ibn Sina, actually in Isharat he mentions, love and understanding are everywhere in the world. سريان العشق في جميع الموجودات. They have this understanding that everything has some level of understanding, some level of love, some level of joy. So don't be surprised when he says ابتهاج الموجودات بكمالاتها. We don't want to go into that discussion now, but that is something that Mullah Sadra has, Ibn Sina has, and of course people like Ibn Arabi have. So beings are happy with the perfections which are for them, exclusive to them. Ala maratib, of course there are levels. Some have more perfections and they have more joy. And as I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the greatest perfection and has the greatest ibtihaj, greatest joy. So when in the previous section Ibn Sina referred to this point, now in this section he decided to refer to the conditions of human beings who have reached perfection in humanity, and decided to explain how they rise in the ranks of sa'ada, felicity, happiness. And then he wants to mention يذكر الأمور العارضة لهم في درجاتهم, what things happen to them in their different degrees. وقد ذكر الفاضل الشارح, one of the people who have commentaries on Al-Isharat wa al-Tanbihat is Fakhr Razi. Fakhruddin al-Razi, the famous scholar who has a Tafsir al-Kabir. He has a book on Tafsir which is called Tafsir al-Kabir, and he has books on Kalam. He is actually the one who is known as Imam al-Mushakkikin. He used to raise lots of doubts against philosophers. But anyway, he has interest in this book by Ibn Sina, and Khwajah very respectfully refers to him, although in this book Khwajah many times refutes his ideas. But the fact that Khwajah pays attention to the points mentioned by him shows that there is a value, there is appreciation. Because ulama, when they spend their time on criticizing something, evaluating something, it means that they have respected and considered it to be of value. Otherwise they just ignore it. So Khwajah says قد ذكر الفاضل الشارح أن في هذا الباب أجل ما في هذا الكتاب. Fakhr Razi says that what is in this part of the book is the greatest thing in this book. In all different parts of the book, you don't find something as jaleel as this, as great as here. فإنه رتب فيه علوم الصوفية ترتيبا ما سبقه إليه من قبله ولا لحقه من بعده. Because Ibn Sina in this part has organized, rattaba means organized, classified, sciences of Sufiya, means Urafa, mystics, Sufis. We talked about the difference between Sufi and Arif, in the previous course, and we said up to some time they were known more as Sufi. Then the term Irfan came, and then there was a division from 9th century. But this means Irfana Amali, because in this section Ibn Sina talks about Irfana Amali, not about Irfana Nazari. So rattaba fiha ulum as-Sufiyya, how? Tartiban, a kind of order, a kind of classification. Ma sabaqahu ilayhim man qablahu. No one before Ibn Sina preceded him in this beautiful way of classification. Wala lahiqahu man ba'da. No one joined him afterwards. Means he's unique. He was the first and so far the last person who brings such a nice way of organization. This is why we chose this for the second stage. Then Khwajah says al-jilbab al-malhafa. He talks about what is the meaning of jilbab, something, a clothes that you cover yourself with that. ما يتقطع به من ثوب, something like قطع, you put yourself on yourself. Nada means to remove, خلع. And then he says what Ibn Sina means by فكأنهم وهم في جلابيب من أبدانهم قد نضوها وتجردوا عنها إلى عالم القدس. Khwajah says he means this: أن نفوسهم الكاملة, their perfect, complete souls. Perfection, as we discussed in first semester of Akhlaq in the Hose, we said perfection cannot be used for human beings. We never become perfect. But when Urafa talk about insan kamil, maybe we can translate it as those who have become complete in humanity. Means you have developed all the potentials for the virtues that you have. So be careful. When we say perfection, it doesn't mean that we become free from limitations. So their perfect or complete souls, وَإِنْ كَانَتْ فِي ظَاهِرِ الْحَالِ مُلْتَحِفَةً بِجَلَابِيبِ الْأَبْدَانِ. Although when you look at them, you see they are still covered by body. Means on the surface you see body. لكنها كأن قد خلعت تلك الجلابيب. It is as if they have removed the body. Why we say as if? Because still they have the body. Of course, some Urafa have this experience that they had separation between their body and soul. In self-knowledge, I have mentioned, for example, Mirza Jawad Agha Tehrani in Mashhad, and I had met him, alhamdulillah, myself when he was alive. In one of his books, when he refutes the ideas of the materialists, he mentions, because he was not a person to mention these things to show off, but because this was important case of refuting materialism, among many things that he mentioned that he himself had this experience of looking at his body. So sometimes the soul comes out and can look at the body as you look at your clothes. Many people have had this experience, and actually some people say you never reach anything in Irfan unless you have this experience. It's like basic things. So they are still with body, but the belonging is very, very weak, very, very loose, and they can anytime come out if they need. And this is why when they die, it's very easy for them. Those who are very much attached to dunya and body, removing body from the soul is like removing the nail. It's so painful, it's torture. But for such people, it's like someone who has very tied and a small clothes and wants to remove it and become free. This is why they very much enjoy death. So وإن كانت في ظاهر الحال ملتحفة بالجلابيب الأبدان لكنها كأن قد خلعت, as if they have removed those covers. وتجردت عن جميع الشوائب المادية, they have become mujarrad, they have become abstract, free from all the materialistic attachments and belongings. وخلصت إلى عالم القدس, and has become khalis and khalas. Khalas means free, khalis means again pure and free. So they have become free to be attached to the world and realm of holiness. متصلة بتلك الذوات الكاملة البريئة عن النقصان والشر. They have become connected to those beings, those essences which are there in Malakut, which are free from any badness, like angels who are muqarrab to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the spirits of the prophets and awliyaullah. وَلَهُمْ أُمُورٌ خَفِيَّةٌ فِيهِمْ. He said they have some hidden things that other people don't sense normally. هي مشاهداتهم. Mushahadat is plural for mushahada. Mushahada means to witness. So there are things that they understand, they see, they witness, but other people cannot understand. مشاهداتهم لما تعجز عن إدراكه الأوهام. Awham, minds of people cannot understand them. They are ajiz to understand. وَتَكِلُّ عَنْ بَيَانِهِ الْأَلْسِنَةِ, and tongues are not able to speak and to utter. Those experiences cannot be spoken and translated into words. وَابْتِهَاجَاتُهُم, and they have deep joys. بِمَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ, no ear has heard, no eyes have seen those beautiful experiences that they have when they are in the state of salat, in their state of munajat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who understands what type of pleasure they have? Quran also refers to such pleasures that they have. Of course, maybe the Quran is talking about the heaven, but these people experience part of the heaven in dunya. فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُم مِّن قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ, no one knows, not in dunya, not there, what is hidden for them, what is concealed for them as a kind of surprise. وَأُمُورٌ ظَاهِرَةٌ عَنْهُمْ, these were khafiyya, the hidden things. There are things which also manifest from them. هِيَ آثَارُ كَمَالٍ وَإِكْمَالٍ تَظْهَرُ مِنْ أَقْوَالِهِمْ وَأَفْعَالِهِمْ, there are outcomes and effects of perfection and perfecting that appear from their words and actions. وَآيَاتٌ تَخْتَصُّ بِهِمْ, and there are signs which are only for them. التي من جملتها ما يعرف بالمعجزات والكرامات, some of these things are like miracles of the prophets, or karamat, extraordinary acts of non-prophets. Technically, we don't use karama except for the prophets. For what things, for example, imams do, awliyaullah do, other than the prophets, we call karama, not mu'jiza. Although in Arabic you can say mu'jiza for everything which is extraordinary and people cannot bring, but in kalam we have clear definition. Mu'jiza is something extraordinary that a person who claims to be prophet brings, and he should also challenge people, and the mu'jiza should come in compliance with his claim, not that he says something and something extraordinary happens to the opposite. You remember in kalam we said that, for example, there was a person who claimed to be a prophet, I think was Musaylama al-Kadhab, and people said, you know, our well has shortage of water, and he split into the water and the whole well became dry. Okay, this was extraordinary, no one can do that, but this was against what he wanted to do. This is not mu'jiza, although it is extraordinary, but has to be mutabiqan lid-da'wah. So everything which is extraordinary, khariqun lil-'ada, and comes from mudda'i an-nubuwwah and is in compliance with his claim, and also comes with tahaddi, with challenge, that says no one can bring like this. This is technically called mu'jiza. So mu'jiza is for the prophets only, but for imams we have karama. So there are such things that these people can do, but maybe there are other things that, you know, especially for example wise ideas that they have, wise achievements that they have. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam all of a sudden starts praying to Allah and then becomes du'a Arafah, this is a mu'jiza or karama, even if technically we don't call it mu'jiza, but in a sense it's mu'jiza because other people are ajiz, they cannot bring like it. وَهُوَ أُمُورٌ, and these are things that يَسْتَنْكِرُهَا مَنْ يُنْكِرُهَا. What does it mean? Means لا يسكن إليها قلب من لا يعرفها ولا يقر بها. Those people who don't know and don't admit, their hearts are not comfortable they have difficulty. They find it odd. وَيَسْتَكْبِرُهَا مَنْ يَعْرِفُهَا. This istikbar, as I said, means يَسْتَعْظِمُهَا, not istikbar in the sense of أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. That is arrogance, that's different. Here istikbar means to find something to be kabir, to be great. أَيْ يَسْتَعْظِمُهَا مَنْ يَقِفُ عَلَيْهَا وَيُقِرُّ بِهَا. Those who know and admit, they find these things to be great. They are very much overwhelmed with these things, or at least appreciate these things. So, alhamdulillah, we finished the first tanbih. Inshallah, in the next session, we start with the second tanbih, which is the story of Salaman and Absal. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us understand all the deep ideas which are here in this book and other books on spirituality and irfan, and then be able to apply to our life and then understand them in a deeper way through experience, inshallah. May Allah be with you. Iltimas dua. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin.